Good evening and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us this evening for our second information webinar, Getting the Most out of Gift Aid and GASDS. We hope that this is going to be an evening that will be very informative and useful for you, and that there will also be an opportunity at the end to ask some questions that you may have. I will talk a bit more about how to submit your questions in a few minutes, but to begin with, I thought it would be good if we introduced ourselves. So my name is Ashley Johnston and I am a stewardship consultant in the west of Scotland. I cover the presbyteries of Irvine and Kilmarnock, Ardrossan, Clyde, Glasgow, Argyll, Lochaber, Uist and Lewis. And I will now hand over to Margot.
Hello everybody, I'm Margot Robertson. I've been working as a stewardship consultant with the department since 2007, and I have responsibility for the presbyteries of Fife, West Lothian, Edinburgh, Lothian, Duns, Melrose and Peebles, Jedburgh and the Presbytery of England. Fiona.
Hi, my name is Fiona Penny and I'm also a stewardship consultant. I've been with the department since 2008 and I cover the north of Scotland, so from Dundee Presbytery right across to the west and right up to the top, including Orkney and Shetland. Ashley.
Thank you, Fiona. We also have another member of our team whom some of you might know, Pauline Wilson. Unfortunately, Pauline cannot be with us this evening due to health reasons, but Pauline is the consultant for the presbyteries of Annandale and Eskdale, Dumfries and Kirkcudbright, Wigton and Stranraer, Ayr, Lanark, Hamilton, Falkirk and Stirling, Dunkeld and Meagle and Perth. We are also very fortunate this evening that we are being joined by Lisa Erskine. So Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Erskine. I am the Congregational Finance Manager and I've basically joined everybody tonight to join the question and answer session, and I just wanted to welcome everybody along tonight to say thank you for coming. We hope that you enjoy and find the session informative. So I'll just pass back to you, Ashley, if that's okay.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Lisa. So for now, a bit of housekeeping. We will begin shortly and I will pass over to Margot and Fiona, who will present to you for about 20-25 minutes or so. And after that, it will be time to go into our question and answer session. You may have seen the instructions with how to submit your questions before we came live this evening, but just to explain once again, at the top of the screen, you should see a small icon that looks a bit like two small speech bubbles with a small question mark in them. If you click on that, it'll open the Q&A sidebar at the side of your screen. You'll then have to click on the My Question tab and you can enter your question into the question field at the bottom. You will then be able to submit your question by clicking on the send icon. You may wish to enter your name with your question in the name field, or if you don't want to, that's okay, and you can submit your question anonymously. This webinar is being recorded and a video of this event will be made available in the coming days, along with a list of any extra information or links we may talk about, and also the questions and answers from the end of the session. So before I pass over to Margot, let's just take a moment to gather ourselves before God as we come and move forward this evening. So let us pray. Loving God, bless our meeting this evening as we come together in your name for the good of your church and your people. Help us to share with each other, to open our hearts, ears and minds to all that is being communicated. Fill us with your Spirit and renew us in our duties and responsibilities we hold in our local settings. All this we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. In Proverbs 13, verse 8 to 11, we read, "Some who have nothing may pretend to be rich, and some who have everything may pretend to be poor. The rich may have to pay a ransom, but the poor don't have that problem. The lamp of a good person keeps on shining. The lamp of an evil person soon goes out. Too much pride causes trouble. Be sensible. Take advice. Money wrongly gotten will disappear bit by bit, but money earned little by little will grow and grow." I'm sure that all of us are aware of the importance of financial stewardship, and sometimes when it comes to church finances in particular, it can seem very overwhelming. The pressure to keep things going, to grow them, is evident, and we can feel that our congregations and communities, along with the mission and ministry of our churches, are dependent upon our work and the maintenance of a healthy cash flow. Especially after the difficult times that we are all going through, the pressure that we put on ourselves to keep our churches stable and often on level with other churches is very real. But God doesn't put this pressure on us. All that God asks us to do is to try our hardest, to be wise and to take advice of others, to be patient, to keep level-headed and to keep trying little by little. And one of those little things that we can do is to take full advantage of the opportunities available to us, such as Gift Aid and the Gift Aid Small Donation Scheme. So I hope that this session will be helpful to you in showing you how we can grow our church finances little by little, and that it will help you and your congregation to get the most out of Gift Aid and GASDS.
Thanks, Ashley, for that encouragement. Gift Aid is a government scheme which allows a congregation as a registered charity to claim from HMRC 25 pence every pound that an individual donates. The donor must be a UK taxpayer and have made a Gift Aid declaration giving the congregation permission to claim on their offerings and donations. The congregation cannot claim Gift Aid on donations from businesses or companies. Claiming Gift Aid is a valuable source of extra income at no cost to those who give or to the congregation. For example, if a congregation receives annual offerings or donations of £10,000 given as Gift Aid contributions, the congregation will receive £2,500. Similarly, on £50,000 of donations, they would receive £12,500. Gift Aid can be applied to any form of giving where the congregation can identify the donor and the donor doesn't receive any form of goods or services in return. The donation can be by standing order, offering envelope, debit or credit card, cheque, or online. Some contactless devices also give the donor the option to Gift Aid their donation. We would always recommend encouraging your regular givers to give by standing order, if at all possible, as this results in a more reliable and consistent income. As well as completing a Gift Aid declaration, the donor must have paid as much or more income tax or capital gains tax in the tax year than will be reclaimed on their donations. The responsibility for this lies with the donor, not the congregation, but it is good to periodically remind those who have signed a Gift Aid declaration to check that they are still paying enough tax. A Gift Aid declaration can be for a single one-off donation, in which case the date and the amount of the donation is usually included on the form, Alternatively, a declaration can apply to all future donations and can also give permission to claim on donations made by the donor to the congregation in the previous 4 years. A declaration can be made in writing, including through a text message, verbally, in person or over the phone, or online, such as in an email or online form. Whichever format is used, the declaration must include the name of the congregation as the charity, the donor's full name and address, a statement saying that the donor wants gift aid to apply, which could be a tick box for written declarations, and whether the declaration covers past, present, and future donations, or just a single donation. It must also include the explanation that the donor needs to pay the same amount or more of UK income tax or capital gains tax that is claimed in that tax year and is responsible to pay any difference. Just to clarify the guidance around verbal declarations. The person taking the declaration on behalf of the congregation might recite the necessary information to the donor and ask them to confirm it, rather than asking the donor to recite the information themselves. If this conversation can be recorded, that is all that is necessary. However, if not, then the declaration won't be valid until the donor is sent a written record of all the details provided or confirmed by them. This must include the statutory information that is required on a written declaration, as well as an explanation of their entitlement to cancel the declaration within 30 days, the date on which the donor gave the verbal declaration, and the date on which the congregation sent the written record to the donor. Excuse me. Married couples, couples in a civil partnership, or people living at the same address can make declarations on the same form, provided they are all taxpayers. Each donor must make it clear how much of any donation relates to each of them, and they must be listed separately on the congregation's claim to HMRC. Technically, HMRC does not require gift aid declarations to be signed or dated by the donor, but it is good practice to include these for the purposes of a complete audit trail and when claiming on previous donations. HMRC does not have a standard declaration form, so you're free to design your own phone form, provided it includes all the essential information I mentioned earlier. You may wish to add more information, such as General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. HMRC has no objection to this, or to including the declaration in other documents, such as Standing Order Mandate, provided you always include the statutory information required for a gift aid declaration. HMRC have a sample form on their website, which you can use as a template, or we also have one, which can be downloaded from our website for anyone wishing to use it. A link to our declaration form and gift aid leaflet will be sent out with the post-webinar information. The current HMRC recommendation wording came into effect in April 2016. Previously completed declarations containing the old wording do not need to be renewed, but you need to make sure that any new declarations use the updated wording. If a donor changes their name or address, they don't need to complete a new declaration, but a note of the updated details must be kept along with the original declaration. Likewise, if a congregation changes their name, for example after a union, there is no need for all existing declarations to be renewed, so long as they can show beyond doubt that the name of the existing declaration is a name previously used by that congregation. It is important that you keep records of all gift aid declarations, donations and claims, both for your own information and as a clear audit trail should your congregation be audited by HMRC. You need to have adequate records to be able to show a clear link between an individual's donation and their gift aid declaration. You must keep a valid declaration and records for all donations on which the congregation has reclaimed tax for 6 years after the end of the accounting period the donation was made in. If gift aid is claimed on donations from someone who has not made a gift aid declaration, the congregation will have to repay the tax claimed. Likewise, if a charity does not keep adequate records, it may be required to pay back to HMRC the tax reclaimed with interest and may also be liable to a penalty. It is quite acceptable to scan original paper declarations if you wish to store them electronically, providing that the scanned images can be viewed and printed at a later date, if required. If you choose to do this, the original paper form can be destroyed. Whilst verbal declarations are equally acceptable, it is still necessary to keep a record of them. This can be done by keeping the audio recording of each donor making their gift aid declaration, or keeping a record of when the letter confirming their verbal declaration was issued. You must keep records of any cancelled declarations, including the cancellation date. A donor can cancel their declaration at any time. This will not affect donations already made, but any further donations from that donor will not qualify for gift aid. Offering envelopes can be used for gift aid donations in 2 ways. Firstly, you can use an envelope that incorporates a reference, usually a number, that links the donation to a named donor, for which there is a gift aid declaration covering all donations to the congregation. In these circumstances, the congregation is advised to keep all envelopes, including non-gift aid ones, for a minimum of 1 month per year, covering a period of 4 years as a representative sample for audit purposes. For example, a church may decide to keep every general giving envelope received throughout the month of, say, August, and after a period of 4 years, the church will have in place a total 4 months envelopes, all received during August for the preceding 4 years. They would continue to do this on a rolling basis. Secondly, an envelope may incorporate the gift aid declaration itself. These are often used for one-off donations, for example, by visitors or for a special event. In these circumstances, because the envelopes contain the actual declaration, each one must be retained for 6 years after the end of the accounting period the donation was made in. In both cases, for accurate recording purposes, it is good practice when counting the offering to write the amount contained in each envelope on the outside. Claims for gift aid can be made using HMRC's Charities online service. A congregation must first register with HMRC. Detailed guidance on both the registration and the claims processes is available on HMRC's website. The online process provides a gift aid donation schedule spreadsheet where up to 1,000 donations can be claimed at one time. Additional spreadsheets can be submitted if you have more than 1,000 donations. You will need either Microsoft Excel or LibreOffice to use this spreadsheet. Online claims can also be made using suitable software. HMRC's website has a list of eligible commercial software suppliers. Alternatively, claims can be made by post after obtaining a CHR1 form by contacting HMRC's Charities Helpline. If your claim is accepted, your congregation should be paid by bank transfer, usually within 4 weeks for online claims or 5 weeks for postal claims. HMRC will send a written confirmation that a payment has been made. Gift aid claims require to be submitted within 4 years of the end of the accounting period in which the donation was received. So, for example, gift aid donations made in the accounting year ending the 31st of December 2018 require to be claimed by 31st of December 2022. Churches and other charities can only reclaim the basic rate of tax on gift-aided donations, no matter whether the donor pays basic rate or higher rate tax. However, HMRC allows higher rate taxpayers to reclaim the difference between basic and higher rate tax themselves. And finally, I just want to cover a relatively new addition to the gift aid guidance. HMRC will consider donations made from a waiver of a right to either a refund or loan repayment to be eligible for gift aid. For example, if someone had bought tickets for the congregation's fundraising event and the event was subsequently cancelled, but the person said they did not want a refund and just to keep the money, this would become a donation eligible for gift aid. Similarly, if someone had loaned the congregation money, say for a particular project, but then later decided to write off the remainder of the loan, then what was left of the loan would become a donation eligible for gift aid. In both scenarios, the money can only be treated as a gift aid donation if there is a record of a formal waiver held by the congregation. The donor is a UK taxpayer and all other gift aid rules are met. The donation will be considered to have been made at the date of the waiver and not the date of the original payment. What HMRC considers to be a formal waiver depends on the amount being waived. For a small amount, an email, letter, or recorded phone call is sufficient. However, for a larger amount, such as a cancelled loan, a legally enforceable document is required. The congregation must keep a copy of all documents for audit purposes, and all other gift aid rules still apply. And now over to Fiona.
Thank you, Margot. So in addition to the gift aid scheme, the government also offers a scheme where it is possible to claim gift aid on cash, loose or in an offering envelope, and on donations through a contactless device. This, as I'm sure you're all aware, is called the Gift Aid Small Donation Scheme, or GASDS for short. It has been in operation since April 2013 and subject to certain conditions. As charities, congregations are able to claim this gift aid style top-up. To be eligible, the congregation need to have 6 services or events with at least 10 people attending each time in the year for which they are claiming. Congregations can claim back on an amount equivalent to that on gift aid, on cash and contactless device donations of £30 or less. There is no need for the donor to be identified, complete any paperwork, or to be a taxpayer. This is good news for congregations, as it allows them, in most circumstances, to claim up to an additional £2,000 each year from HMRC without the need for much additional paperwork. In certain cases where a congregation has additional buildings, this limit may be increased, and I'll cover that in a moment. The basic calculations for small donations claims works in the same way as for Gift Aid. For each £1 of eligible donation, the congregation will be able to claim 25p from HMRC. The maximum amount of donations you can claim on is £8,000 in each tax year, which at 25p for every pound would give £2,000 of Gift Aid tax back. However, the amount you can claim is also determined by how much Gift Aid you claim. So your GASDS claim cannot be more than 10 times your Gift Aid claim. So to claim on the maximum of £8,000 of donations through the small donation scheme, you must have made a Gift Aid claim on £800 of donations in the same tax year. The small donation scheme is always worked out on a tax year basis, so the Gift Aid donations to be taken into account must also be per tax year, not per your accounting year. And you need to remember to look at the year the Gift Aid donation was made in, not the year it was claimed in, if that happens to be different. There are certain donations that are not eligible to be claimed under the small donation scheme. You can't claim on a donation from an identifiable donor who has completed a Gift Aid declaration, or on cheques, standing orders, QR codes, or online donations. It is also important to exclude any donations where the donor has received goods or services as a result of their donation. For example, if you hold a coffee morning and charge £2 entry, you cannot claim this under the small donation scheme. However, if entry is free, but you invite donations, you can claim under the scheme. So just a reminder of what is eligible. As I said previously, cash donations of £30 or less are eligible. Although the Gift Aid small donation scheme is primarily aimed at the congregation's unidentified donations, claims can be made on cash donations of £30 or less given through free will offering envelopes where the donor has not signed a Gift Aid declaration. Donations of £30 or less made through a contactless device are also eligible. Those who count the offering should take reasonable steps to ensure the £30 limit is adhered to, such as removing any donations that are clearly greater than £30, for example any £50 notes or envelopes containing more than £30. These should be recorded as non-eligible donations. Now, I appreciate this is really obvious, but if these steps are not taken, it may cause confusion for the person making the claim. There is one occasion where a cash sum larger than £30 may still be eligible for the small donation scheme. If a person donates several individual cash donations together in a single envelope, and the responsible office bearer is happy that these are intended to be separate small donations, and they're clearly stated as such, then they are eligible under the small donation scheme. This also applies where separate envelopes from the same person have been used but given at the same time. Therefore, for example, if someone puts £200 cash in an envelope and marks it as 20 weeks of £10 weekly donations for the occasions where they've not been able to make a regular cash offering, HMRC is content that the donation is eligible under the small donation scheme. Alternatively, 20 separate envelopes from the same person with up to £30 cash in each can be included, as these are clearly intended as separate donations. Please remember, though, that these donations must be in cash, as cheques are not eligible. In the main, a congregation can, as I said earlier, claim on up to £8,000 of donations where they meet the requirements. However, Where a congregation uses more than one building and they are in different locations, then each of the buildings will qualify for claiming through the small donation scheme on up to £8,000, providing that each building has had 6 services or events with at least 10 people attending each time in the year for which they are claiming. The building does not require to be a church building. It can be a public building which is used by the church for a range of purposes. It's important to remember, though, that buildings on adjacent land are classed as one community building, which is the term used by HMRC. So many church halls will not be eligible for additional small donations claims. All claims under the small donation scheme must be made within 2 years from the end of the tax year in which the donations were collected. Remember that this is the tax year and not your accounting year. Small donation claims are made online by completing a GASDS community building schedule available to download from the HMRC website. You need to keep records of all small donations. At least 2 people should check and count the cash collected. For the GASDS donations, they should record how much money was collected, including the denomination of cash received, the date the money was collected, and that no individual donation was greater than £30. This money must be banked to be eligible, so the treasurer cannot keep some of it for petty cash or, for example, to pay expenses. If you've collected donations via a contactless terminal, you will need to keep the records produced by that system. All records for the small donation scheme should be kept for 6 years from the end of the tax year in which the donations were made. With regard to money given through envelopes, as Margot has already mentioned, HMRC recommends that the congregation keep a minimum of 1 month's envelopes per year, covering a period of 4 years on a rolling basis. So that's a whistle-stop tour of Gift Aid and the Gift Aid Small Donation Scheme. We hope you found it helpful, and I'm going to hand back to Ashley now, but in the meantime I would ask you to keep posting any questions you've got in the Q&A chat. Thank you.